I'm Evie, and I have some questions for you. 2 questions. My 2 questions are, since God made everything, who made God and beyond? My second question is, why are we here, and why are we here? Why are we on Earth? If you answered these questions, I would be really appreciated by that. Thank you. Bye.
Or why we're here, rather. And if the message in the Bible is primarily, as I see it, is to worship God, and praise God.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much what it says for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And in our world, that would be considered quite an ego.
Yeah.
Because it was all created just to worship Him. Not just, but that's our main purpose.
Well, and remember in Micah, what does the Lord require of you? Mm-hmm. To love God, to do kindness, and walk humbly with your God. So it is like there is some, we are called to walk humbly with God. And I don't know what that says about God's humility.
I don't think we can grow in God's grace and love without each other. When we isolate,
sending her a message there.
Yeah, when we isolate,
I see what you're saying to me.
we don't nurture each other and grow from each other. So you know things that would inspire me, and hopefully I can spread something.
Mm-hmm.
Life's kind of like a chain where we help the link that we're near.
Dee, will you say what you said earlier about about God, where God came from, or
God is. We don't know anything larger or greater. God is and always has been. In the beginning, it says.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I agree with you. I think God made Adam and Eve, and they were not compliant. And so then we all had free will, which sometimes is not to our benefit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's why we all come together to learn how to be more spiritual and not evil.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Ron?
I just had a question. If you can come up with any answers, I'd like to know if God ever has a bad day, or does he ever catch cold or get the flu?
Or COVID.
Yeah. Ray, will you say what you said about what you learned?
Pardon?
The first thing you learned as a child.
So what was it?
Yes.
God is love was the first.
Uh-huh. So God has always been
Good.
Mm-hmm.
And what he created is good. But there were those, as just said, Adam and Eve, that succumbed to temptation. And there have always been those that have not followed the goodness that is there to follow.
Mm-hmm. Jerry, will you repeat what you said earlier about why we're here? Why are we here?
Because we're the only place, the only planet which was acceptable for us. We could not live in the other places.
Mm-hmm.
That we're aware of.
That we're aware of. But I'm just, I just run across this the last month or so, and it was that all these other planets, 500 of them, which they have been able to get some indication of what it's like there, and none of them are could support our life.
Mhm.
I mean, you've got molten iron falling from the skies instead of rain, that sort of thing.
Mm. Well, then,
Yeah,
why would we? I think Evie would ask you, why is this planet the only, like, if this planet can sustain life, what are we here to do? Why are we here on this planet?
I wish I knew.
I think Paul said it. I think we were put here in the beginning to worship God. He created us to worship Him. But then, as humans are, Adam and Eve showed that. They had everything. They had everything. And they were said, but don't eat from that tree. And they had to eat from the tree. Of course, they were tempted, but they succumbed to the temptation.
Mm.
And they ate from the tree. And that's when everything broke loose.
It's like,
So the story.
do you remember when Bill Mooney told that joke when Adam was with Cain and Abel out up on a mountain someplace, and they were pointing out the Garden of Eden and saying, "Man, Dad, that looks like a great place. Why don't we live there?" And Adam said, "We used to live there, boys, until your mother ate us out of house and home." Of course, he did it too. So let's blame the mom.
Yeah, I think we're here to love each other, and sometimes that's difficult.
Mhm.
People do things, and we say, "I don't know if I could ever forget that or not." But it's not ours to forgive.
Mhm.
It's ours to continue to love and support, and hope they come to the place where they ask forgiveness and change.
Yeah.
You know, like drugs or rape or all the things.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know how I would feel if that happened with Shelby.
Mhm.
I'd be pretty angry, but I would hope I could come to a place.
Marlena, what are you thinking? Your
Which
brain
question?
look
Which question?
both. Your brain looks like it's really working over there.
Yeah, right. I really don't have an answer to the first one because I never thought about that question. I think that God has always been, and I don't think you can't explain it away. I mean, I just feel that it's there. As far as the second question, I thought He brought us to this earth so that His Son could come here and teach what He had to say to us and to bring us closer together, and to heal people. And I think He really wanted to show people that His Son was no different than anybody else. I don't know if that makes sense.
So then, if His Son is no different than anyone else, is God different from anyone else?
I don't think so. but I'm not absolutely sure about that.
I think God and His Son are, because there's purity there that we're still, if we're still on this planet, then we're moving toward that purity, or that, we wouldn't be here if we'd learned all the lessons.
Mm.
And sometimes I say, oh God, I know I learned that lesson. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously I didn't. But I think that's why we're here, to learn those lessons and move closer to being godlike.
Hmm. We got a lot of studying to do.
Yeah.
What about you, Ron? You have...
Just to change the subject for a moment.
Okay.
I think Peg would like to know why he made snakes. Because she sees a snake and she shrieks loudly.
I didn't shriek at the campground this week when I saw it.
Really?
And they asked me if I looked at its chin to see if it was white. And I go, no, because that would have meant it was a black racer.
Oh.
Just a black snake with no pattern and skinny.
Oh.
That's a good snake.
Yeah, I know. It went that way and I was over here. I was happy.
Nancy, you and Princess haven't said anything.
Well, I always thought that God made us because in His own image, because He was lonesome, and He wanted some love Himself and wanted to show us how to love.
Oh, I like that answer.
But if God is whole, how could He be lonesome?
If He's whole,
Mm-hmm.
what do you mean by whole?
God is everything.
Oh, I don't know.
If God is love, like Ray says.
Mm-hmm.
But if God is love, doesn't He want someone to love Him back?
Yeah. That's what I think.
If you take literally what you were just saying, God is love, there's no loving Him back because He is love.
Yeah.
We start talking about these things in the way we can handle them, because when we think about, like the planets, whatever, there's a universe somewhere out there. We don't know. There could be many planets somewhere with other beings,
Right.
and other different, completely different from us. And we tend to think of God personally because we want to be associated with Him and follow what we heard since we've been brought up, and the Bible and all that. It's really, to me, closer to a concept than a reality of a personality.
Yeah. And how do you experience that concept? How do you experience it? Like, what makes you believe that God is there?
Well, to be honest, it's probably my early upbringing. When, it'd be impossible for me in our family to think that there wasn't a God. A God. But I think we could have created God because we needed to think that there is some superior force out there, and that superior force has done and can do virtually anything, and He actually loves us, and we should be expected to love Him in return, and love your neighbor and all that stuff. We talk about Adam and Eve, that they aren't real people.
Right.
So, I mean, this is all a concept that is come after eons and generated, as far as we are here, in the human mind. we don't really know anything much about God.
Mm-hmm.
You have times when you feel that the belief that what you say about believing God and Jesus, and
Mm-hmm.
you have times like that, and it really, I have, I'm sure all of you have at some point. I notice that when I really experience God, it's usually because I'm in trouble some kind of way.
Huh.
And I can go around, everything's running good, and I honestly don't think day to day that much about the idea of God. But I sure do when I'm in trouble, or when I know I've done something that isn't good.
Mm-hmm.
And you get ready to go to bed at night, and those things hit you, and whatever God is, my being and mind says, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done it. That's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope there's somebody up there listening and God and does accept that. We don't know what's going on. These kind of questions are the kind of, it just is, and the universe is, where did it come from? It came from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Big bang, it was whatever it was there, and it infinitesimal almost, and then it became the whole universe, which is vaster than any solar system or anything that we can think of. I'm done. I'm repeating myself.
So if we don't know, if we're not certain, and if we are we're constantly trying to figure everything out, why do we come here? Why is it important to us to come together every Sunday and talk and learn and connect and worship together, like in church every Sunday?
And to grow more. And I'm going to throw another log on the fire. I don't know anyone's history here. Well, I know pretty much about Joanne, but I'm not going to tell it. But
Oh, come on.
We all have this image of what we think Jesus and God look like, and we don't know.
Yeah.
It's here, and we've all been saying God, He, and it could be God, she.
Well, Evie, who asked this question, refers to God as she.
Because women who have been abused would have a terrible time thinking of God as a He.
Mm-hmm.
My Shelby would not think of God as a He.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's been brought up to know we don't categorize But so I think we have to grow beyond what we learned in our early years
Mm-hmm.
and try to learn how to apply that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can think of certain situations where a good person was killed
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And for a long time, I kept that in my head as my brother. And why do we have to kill people? Why do we have to love people? Who's making us do that? How are we happy? There's just so many questions that you have to be in charge of what makes you happy. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does make sense.
That he was killed by fire, not someone else.
In a motel.
Yeah.
Right. But why him?
Right.
Yeah, why him?
A man that flew over Vietnam every day comes home and gets
Mm-hmm.
dead.
Mm.
So, I don't think I believe in God. I believe He loves me. I don't know why I have to know any more than that.
Mhm. And is that one of the reasons that you continue to engage with the people that are here? Because you don't have to know. You just experience God.
Yes, and I think there's a God there for us to help us through. I didn't blame Bob or God about my brother dying like that. I just, it's something you don't want to really admit, but it's just one of those things that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of that. And I've learned through the years that you do have to, people are just not the same. And they're going to do what they're going to do.
But Joanne's a good example of what God wants us to be. Because when Bob died in that fire, she and Bill immediately left to go pick up those two girls and cared for them and still do the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
They were at a camp.
Yes.
No, I'm telling people that don't know the story.
Yeah. So,
Girls were.
They immediately accepted that responsibility and doing things for other people, that help people.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me what would happen to the two girls that were in camp. And I said, they know what will happen. They will be with us. And we took care of that younger. And it made it a little easier, I guess. It takes the hate away.
Mm-hmm.
They just were there.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened. If I'm making any sense at all, am I?
Yes,
Yes.
you are. You are.
One of the things that really bothers me about that I have trouble accepting is why it takes so long to die when you know you're going to die.
Hmm.
If you have cancer or are compromised that you can't get out of it, why does it take so long?
Hmm.
We still have growing to do.
Still have what?
Growing. We still have things to give to other people. We still have teaching.
When you're in that situation, you're not teaching or growing that I can see.
Oh, I think a lot of people do. Bill did on his deathbed, don't you think?
You know what?
Teaching, even when you're dying.
Absolutely.
So we don't finish until we take that last breath.
Mm-hmm.
My husband had a reason for being there for 2 months. Getting weaker and weaker. I couldn't figure out why it was so hard. He was arranging things for me. And until he finished that, he wasn't going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And people came together.
And people came together.
It wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm thinking about Evie's friend, La, the Tessa's major professor, who's right now dying. And she's still teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And the people are learning and experiencing love through her right now. in a beautiful way. Are you thinking, Nancy, when it becomes so painful?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it still takes a long time to die. Even when there's no other way, you know it's coming.
Mm. Yeah.
You're probably maybe bedridden and
Yeah.
But you know, Bill was bedridden, and we
It's
would
time.
take turns sitting there holding his hand.
Mm.
And I said to Bill, some of the things I appreciate most about you is your spirituality and his, there were things I didn't appreciate, but, but his spirituality and the way he gave to people, because he did.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're hearing a lot of people gathering, getting ready to go to church. So I'm just going to scan you guys and thank you for answering Evie's questions. And I'll share the video with you guys too, because
And then share her comments about it.
yes,
with us.
yes, I will. I'll get her comments.
How are
Yes,
you going to tell them all this?
Could I make one more observation?
yes.
Okay, I believe God had enormous ability in two specific areas. To have created the universe, I think, was an excellent physicist. And with regard to the Big Bang, he was an expert on explosives.
Ah. Interesting.
Expert on that.
All right. Thank you.
All right, not sure how this is going to work, but I have an answer for Evie's second question, and that goes back to my days as a Presbyterian. We had to learn a catechism called the Shorter Catechism, and I thought it was named because it was short, but it was after a person by the name of Shorter. And one of the questions was, what is man's chief aim? And the answer to that was, man's chief aim is to love God and enjoy Him forever. Bye.